The year is 1777. The air is thick with the tension of a nation in the throes of revolution. The Continental Congress, huddled in the midst of a desperate war for independence, faces a pivotal choice. The stakes could not be higher, as the future of the fledgling nation hangs in the balance. The Articles of Confederation, a document meant to unite the 13 colonies under a single banner, lies before them. It is a bold proposal, one that promises to forge a new path for the colonies, transforming them from a collection of independent entities into a cohesive nation. It promises unity, yet many fear its embrace. Suspicions linger, anxieties fester. The delegates are torn between the dream of a united front and the fear of losing their hard-won autonomy. The states, wary of ceding hard-won autonomy, hesitate. They have fought long and hard to free themselves from the yoke of British rule, and the idea of surrendering any measure of their newfound freedom is a bitter pill to swallow. The spectre of tyranny recently overthrown still looms large. Memories of oppression and subjugation are fresh in their minds, and the fear of replacing one form of tyranny with another is palpable. In a fateful decision, driven by fear and short-sightedness, the Congress rejects the Articles. The vote is close, but the outcome is clear. The dream of a unified nation is put on hold, and the consequences of this decision will be far-reaching. The dream of a unified nation hangs precariously in the balance. The fragile unity, painstakingly forged in the fires of rebellion, begins to unravel. The consequences are immediate and dire. The rejection of the Articles sends shockwaves through the Congress, and the delegates are left to grapple with the fallout of their decision. The fragile unity, painstakingly forged in the fires of rebellion, begins to unravel. The bonds that held the colonies together are strained to the breaking point, and the dream of a united nation seems more distant than ever. The 13 colonies, now free from British rule, stand alone, a loose confederation of sovereign states. Each state, jealous of its newfound liberty, prioritizes its own interests above the common good. Each state, jealous of its newfound liberty, prioritizes its own interests above the common good. The spirit of cooperation that had fueled the revolution is replaced by a sense of isolation and self-preservation. The Continental Congress, lacking any real authority, can only watch in dismay as the seeds of discord are sown. The delegates, once united in their quest for independence, are now divided by their own ambitions and fears. The rejection of the Articles sends shockwaves across the fledgling nation. The news spreads quickly, and the people who had placed their hopes in the promise of unity are left to wonder what the future holds. The war for independence, already a grueling struggle, is thrown into jeopardy. The lack of a unified front weakens the colony's ability to resist the British forces, and the dream of victory seems more elusive than ever. The British, sensing weakness, redouble their efforts. They see an opportunity to exploit the divisions within the colonies, and they move quickly to press their advantage. The dream of a united, independent America, so recently within reach, begins to slip away. The vision of a new nation, free and united, is overshadowed by the reality of division and discord. Yet, even in the face of such adversity, the spirit of the revolution endures. The dream of a united America is not easily extinguished, and the struggle for unity and independence continues. The delegates, though disheartened, are not defeated. They reconvene, determined to find a way forward. The path to unity is fraught with challenges, but the resolve to overcome them remains strong. From the ashes of rejection, a new resolve is born. The dream of a united nation, though battered and bruised, rises once more, fueled by the indomitable spirit of those who dare to dream. The journey to unity is long and arduous, but the vision of a united America endures. The dream, though deferred, is not forgotten. It lives on in the hearts and minds of those who believe in the promise of a better future. The Articles may have been rejected, but the spirit of unity and the quest for independence continue to drive the nation forward. The dream of a united America, though challenged, remains a beacon of hope and resilience. The story of the Articles rejected is not just a tale of failure, but a testament to the enduring spirit of a nation determined to forge its own destiny. The rejection of the Articles cripples the Continental Army. Without a central government to levy taxes or raise troops, the army is starved of resources and manpower. The soldiers, many of whom are volunteers, find themselves without the necessary supplies to sustain a prolonged campaign. Food is scarce, ammunition is limited, and even basic clothing and shelter are hard to come by. The lack of a unified command structure exacerbates these issues, leading to widespread discontent and desertion among the ranks. Each state maintains its own militia, fiercely independent and often unwilling to cooperate with others. This fragmentation leads to a lack of coordination and unity, with each state prioritizing its own interests over the collective good. The soldiers, dressed in a patchwork of different uniforms, symbolize the disunity that plagues the Continental Army. Arguments and mistrust are common as state militias compete for limited resources and recognition. General Washington, facing a well-equipped and disciplined British army, finds his hands tied. Despite his strategic brilliance and unwavering commitment, he is constantly hampered by the lack of support and resources. The British forces, with their superior training and equipment, pose a formidable challenge. Washington's frustration grows as he watches his plans unravel due to the inefficiencies and infighting within his own ranks. His pleas for unity and support fall on deaf ears. Washington's letters and requests for reinforcements and supplies are often ignored or delayed by the state governments, who are more concerned with their own affairs. The soldiers, weary and demoralized, become increasingly indifferent to the cause. The lack of a cohesive strategy and unified command structure leads to missed opportunities and failed campaigns. Military campaigns, once coordinated efforts, devolve into a chaotic patchwork of independent actions. The lack of communication and cooperation between the state militias results in disorganized and ineffective military movements. Separate groups of soldiers march in different directions, often without clear objectives or support. This disarray allows the British forces to exploit the weaknesses of the Continental Army, further demoralizing the American troops. Jealousy and mistrust run rampant among the state militias. The competition for resources and recognition breeds resentment and suspicion. Soldiers from different states view each other with mistrust, leading to conflicts and infighting. This internal strife weakens the overall effectiveness of the Continental Army, making it difficult to mount a unified and coordinated defense against the British forces. Opportunities for decisive victories are squandered. The lack of coordination and unity results in missed opportunities to strike decisive blows against the British forces. Soldiers, disheartened by the constant setbacks and lack of support, are often forced to retreat from the battlefield. These missed opportunities prolong the conflict and make it increasingly difficult to achieve a swift and decisive victory. The British, masters of divide-and-conquer tactics, exploit these divisions ruthlessly. They take advantage of the disunity within the Continental Army, pitting state against state and turning neighbor against neighbor. The British forces, well coordinated and disciplined, are able to outmaneuver and outfight the fragmented American troops. This divide-and-conquer strategy further weakens the Continental Army and prolongs the conflict. They pit state against state, turning neighbor against neighbor. The British strategy of exploiting the divisions within the Continental Army leads to clashes between state militias. Soldiers from different states, once united in the fight for independence, now find themselves in conflict with each other. This internal strife undermines the overall war effort and makes it increasingly difficult to achieve a unified and coordinated defense against the British forces. The war, once a struggle for liberty, takes on the grim character of a civil conflict. The internal divisions and infighting within the Continental Army give the war a new and darker dimension. What was once a united struggle for independence now resembles a civil conflict with soldiers fighting amongst themselves, This internal strife further demoralizes the American troops and makes it increasingly difficult to achieve a swift and decisive victory. Washington, his leadership undermined, watches in despair as his army crumbles from within. Despite his best efforts, Washington is unable to overcome the disunity and infighting within the Continental Army. His leadership is constantly undermined by the lack of support and resources, and he watches in despair as his army crumbles from within. The dream of a swift and decisive victory fades, replaced by the grim reality of a protracted and bloody conflict. The dream of a swift and decisive victory fades, replaced by the grim reality of a protracted and bloody conflict. The lack of unity and coordination within the Continental Army leads to long and grueling battles, with soldiers showing signs of weariness and despair. The hope for a quick and decisive victory is replaced by the grim reality of a prolonged and bloody conflict with no end in sight. The revolution, once a beacon of hope, teeters on the brink of collapse. The disunity and infighting within the Continental Army have taken a heavy toll on the American troops. The revolution, once a beacon of hope and a symbol of the fight for liberty, now teeters on the brink of collapse. The soldiers, demoralized and weary, struggle to maintain their resolve in the face of overwhelming odds. The future of the revolution hangs in the balance as the Continental Army fights to overcome its internal divisions and achieve a unified and coordinated defense against the British forces. The British, quick to exploit the chaos, offer generous terms to individual states. They see an opportunity to weaken the fragile unity of the American colonies by playing on their exhaustion and desperation. The British strategy is cunning, aiming to create divisions and sow discord among the colonies. They promise peace, autonomy, and protection from their rivals. These offers are tempting to many, especially those who have grown weary of the prolonged conflict and the heavy toll it has taken on their lives and resources. The British are adept at making their offers seem like a lifeline to the beleaguered states. Some states, tempted by these offers and weary of the war, consider abandoning the fight. The debates among colonial leaders are intense and fraught with emotion. The war has dragged on for years, and the initial fervor for independence has given way to a grim reality of endless battles and mounting casualties. The fragile unity of the colonies, already strained, threatens to shatter completely. The leaders are divided, with some advocating for continued resistance and others leaning towards accepting British terms. This division is mirrored among the soldiers, who are equally torn and demoralized. The war drags on, a festering wound on the American landscape. Towns and cities are left in ruins, and the countryside is scarred by the relentless conflict. The American people, once hopeful for a swift victory, now face the harsh reality of a prolonged and brutal war. The British, unable to achieve a decisive victory, resort to a brutal strategy of attrition. They aim to wear down the American forces through sheer persistence and relentless pressure. This strategy involves not just military engagements, but also psychological warfare, aiming to break the spirit of the American resistance. They raid towns, burn crops, and terrorize the civilian population. The British hope that by inflicting such widespread devastation, they can force the colonies into submission. The civilian population suffers immensely, caught in the crossfire and facing the destruction of their homes and livelihoods. The war for independence, once a noble cause, descends into a mire of brutality and despair. The initial ideals of liberty and self-determination are overshadowed by the harsh realities of war. The American dream of independence seems increasingly distant as the conflict grinds on. The absence of a unified government cripples the war effort. The Continental Congress, meant to be the guiding force of the revolution, is hamstrung by its inability to enforce decisions or provide effective leadership. This lack of central authority leaves the colonies vulnerable and disorganized. The Continental Congress, powerless to enforce its decisions, becomes a byword for impotence and irrelevance. The leaders are frustrated and disheartened, unable to rally the states to a common cause. This impotence further erodes the morale of both the military and the civilian population. The states, consumed by their own interests, prove incapable of mounting a cohesive defense. Each state prioritizes its own survival and interests, leading to a fragmented and ineffective resistance. The lack of coordination and mutual support among the states weakens their overall ability to fight back against the British. The dream of a united, independent America recedes further into the distance. The soldiers, once filled with hope and determination, now face the grim reality of a seemingly endless war. The vision of a free and united nation grows dimmer with each passing day as the colonies struggle to hold on to their aspirations amidst the chaos and destruction.